All right. Well, thank you so much, Aidan, for joining me today for today's podcast episode. I know we're kind of here to talk about branding and marketing and kind of how we can get more visibility with PR. So, first, I actually want to start with just having you introduce yourself and giving us a little backstory of who you are.
My name is Aidan, and I run a public relations firm. It's called SOA Marketing Agency. And in terms of like my background, I got into it initially with like the MIT Enterprise Forum Cambridge. After that, around a year later, I decided to start my own marketing company. Initially, it was like a lead generation company, and eventually transitioned to the PR space.
Oh, awesome. And so you came from MIT background. How did you get into that? Like, what actually led you into like marketing? Did you have a passion for it, or like where did that start?
I mean, the passion started to come when I started to get good at. I mean, it wasn't one of those things where I was initially passionate about it. It's just like I saw it was like kind of interesting. And I mean, at the time when I initially worked at the MIT Enterprise Forum Cambridge, it was just an easy internship. So at the time, I didn't think much of it. I just thought, okay, I'll do this. I'll continue doing what I was thinking at the time, which is international relations. It was just something just to check a box for an internship. It wasn't really anything more than that. And then I eventually decided to start my own marketing company because I was somewhat frustrated with the way things were done in terms of like how they did things, in terms of like how we would spend hours a day just creating tweets and stuff, like just changing out a few words and like little things like that, which I just felt were kind of unnecessary. And I felt like if they are doing well, I can probably do this better. So that's kind of what motivated me.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And so you got into like creating your own business. So how long have you had your SOA marketing agency?
I've been running it since like 2017. Also have this other company called Velvet Voice PR, just like our PR division or whatever. But that's essentially how that works.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into some branding. I know a lot of people that kind of listen in are new entrepreneurs. And so what would you say are like the some successful elements of a brand strategy when you're just getting started?
I would say one of the first things you got to start out with, well, of course, is having a good website. But beyond that, optimizing your social media, because a lot of people don't realize initially, perhaps getting into business, that a lot of business owners focus on Instagram as being almost like the digital business card. And having your Instagram optimized in terms of having a photo which you're looking like straight ahead, no other people in the photo, having your Instagram feed optimized in terms of having like Instagram highlights, in terms of having high quality posts, that type of thing, specifically talking about whatever you do in your business, so how you can help someone, and then having a link in bio to whatever you do.
Oh, awesome. So having an online presence is really vital for new entrepreneurs. And then using some type of social media element, and you said Instagram would be a great start for new entrepreneurs.
Yes, Instagram specifically. I mean, I've noticed somewhat like people, I know a couple people have had traction over LinkedIn and stuff. It takes a little bit longer, I would say, over LinkedIn because a lot of people have a LinkedIn account, but they don't use it a lot. On the other hand, on Instagram is like the users tend to be pretty active. You reach out to someone over Instagram, you have a well-optimized Instagram profile, easy to start a conversation. So that's the reason why I like Instagram for that.
Yeah, awesome. And then when it comes to like the content that a new entrepreneurs would post on their pages, what kind of content would you say like would really be able to reach an audience?
I would say content which explains what you do. So whatever you offer, explain exactly what you offer to them, the value, perhaps case studies, that type of thing is basically what I would optimize for. And of course, you want to have everything right in terms of like you want to be able to increase your followers at time. You want to be able to have like good engagement, those types of positive signals. That's what I would probably say the biggest thing is, because it's kind of crazy to me. Sometimes I see someone who's really big in the real estate space who has like 100 million in real estate. But if you look at their Instagram, they've got 6 followers, a photo of like a pizza, and a photo of themselves. And like, that doesn't explain what you do. If most people look at that, they'd be like, that guy's a scam. There's no way he's 100 million in real estate. So even like some people who are older in business struggle with the same issue, I would say, is that they don't have things optimized. But that can hurt you later on in terms of like you'll lose deals because people look you up online and they'll see stuff which they'll come back with misconceptions of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know like when I got into, creating my business and kind of moving away from just, I started posting on Instagram when Instagram had just started. So it was just like me, my younger self posting content of with my friends and things like that. So it was kind of hard for me to transition, or, I kind of thought I needed to start a new Instagram page at the time. And so, how do you kind of integrate the two, or should you start something different that's not, from previous years that you used before? How would you say you would go about that?
I would say it depends on how open you want to be. Like I know people who have specific Instagram pages for each and every single thing they do. Like for example, let's just say they run a course, they got an Instagram for that. They also, do credit repair, they have a specific Instagram for that. So they want to specifically have a specific message for each target audience. On the other hand, if you only have like one business and you're okay with maybe your friends and family knowing that you run a business and they're okay seeing that stuff pop up on their feed, then you can proceed to use that Instagram. So I would say it's kind of like a case by case basis depending on what you're comfortable with sharing.
hmm Yeah, and I guess that kind of goes along with like personal branding as well. Like, who do you want to be known as when it comes to your business, and how do you want to be seen in the marketplace? Some people do just integrate the two, and there are, like you said, cases where you have separate, but I guess it just depends on how you want to move forward with what you're doing in that space.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they both work.
hmm Yeah, awesome. I know also you have some strategies around like getting into the, PR space when it comes to branding and marketing your business. And I know when we talked, earlier this week, you had mentioned to me that a lot of people think that, it's costly to have PR for their business. And there are ways that, you can have that PR without spending a lot of money. And so I am really interested in hearing some strategies and what you think about all of that.
So there's a few different ways actually. So there's one site, it's called hallow.com, HALO.com. Another one's quoted, QWOTED.com. Another one's featured, it's like the word featured and then .com. Those are a few different sites, and what they are is basically journalists have queries and stuff. They're looking for a subject matter expert on what you say marketing or on any particular topic, technology, politics, etc. And they're looking for and they need it quickly because they're trying to publish a story. So they go onto these sites and they're like, hey, I need a subject matter expert for this. So if you're quick to respond back to that, it's an easy way to get a quote or like a link back to your website, which will in turn lead to more website traffic, more credibility, because you can say like as seen on or as featured on your website, which will in turn increase credibility.
Oh, awesome. So it's like a two-in-one strategy where you can write content for your blog, send it over to these reporters, and then get more traction to your website as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that Harrow quoted all these different sites are very easy. I mean, it's not crazy difficult. Most people, even like people who are older, like I've talked to financial advisors who've used Harrow. They were like, hey, I did it. I got a placement on Medium, Authority Magazine, on different publications. You just have to be quick. That's the key of the game.
Oh, so there's a lot of competition when it comes to getting your content posted to these reporters, but it's just kind of about, like you said, being quick and really how quick can you get your information out to them and them getting back to you and getting it posted and things like that.
Yeah, and speed is more difficult than ever because there's people who are using AI to be able to respond back. So they're using AI to be able to come up with things. So you kind of got to compete with those people. So yeah, it's particularly, I always aim for like within that first 10, 15 minutes. After that, then it's a bit harder to get a pitch through. But it is a bit time consuming as well. So once you have some and stuff like that, I mean, not every business can just devote like 15 minutes, 30 minutes every single day to just like pitching different news outlets. Some people can, some people can't.
And so those are some free strategies. And then what would you say, like if new entrepreneurs or anyone had money to put behind their PR strategy, what are some ways that they can do that?
So I mean, we have like PR services when it comes to like getting into different news outlets like Forbes, Entrepreneur, USA Today. We can guarantee placements, TV interviews, podcast interviews, etc. There's also different ways like below like so-called press release services, which publish articles into like Yahoo Finance. There's different sites like Access Wire, which you could basically push out like a press release if you have some sort of announcement based on your company. And that could get you some press coverage. The key there, though, is that it's a press release. So a lot of people like who look into it kind of realize that you paid for it versus a purely editorial article where, like, for example, which we work with, where it's purely editorial, journalists is writing about it. It's not you just announcing something. So that gives a little bit more credibility to your brand. So those are a couple of different options.
And then what would you say like a starting cost of for that would be like to get your announcement out there on something that you're doing? How much would that kind of start at?
Not a lot, like a few $100, $300, $500 for like something maybe a little bit more. The biggest one I've ever seen for like press releases, maybe like $1,000. Most people do the $300 to $500 ones, and that's
Mhm.
usually enough to be able to get featured into say like Yahoo Finance, which is still like I think it's the second largest news outlet in the United States. So that could be pretty effective. And then also getting published in different affiliates of like Fox and NBC. So that allows you to say that with the as seen on, you get that out there. And that's great if you have any sort of announcements.
And you touched on AI a little bit, so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts around AI and using AI when it comes to content marketing and using AI to send out these press releases.
Yeah, I would say AI can be effective if you know how to use the right prompts. In terms of like, I use like ChatGPT, Claude, all those different things. And oftentimes it's kind of strange how it works, but if you use the right prompts, they can actually write better most of the time than actual human writers. So I would argue they are already sort of taking jobs in that regard. However, yeah, it's certainly doable. The way I typically do it is you just take a prior article, for example, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Forbes, you throw in a bunch of those into ChatGPT, and then you just say to it, write an article in this style with X amount of words, so like 500 words, and it will do it, and it will be good.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I use ChatGPT often as well. I really love it. Like it helps you in those times where like you want to write about a specific topic and it's kind of like, this is a topic that you want to write about, but you're kind of stumped when it comes to like what to include in the body of the content. ChatGPT is helpful in that way to give you some ideas. And then just making sure to not completely use ChatGPT word for
Exactly.
word,
Need to be
but
able to essentially be smart and be a human too, because there's certain things ChatGPT will do, which such as saying in the world of technology or in the world of marketing, endless like things. They do weird things like that if you don't use the right prompts. So you kind of have to analyze it and look into it in terms of the stuff they say, because there's certain verbiage if you use ChatGPT long enough that you'll notice that they always use over and over and over.
yeah, that's very true. Like sometimes it can get a little redundant and repetitive with if you're using certain prompts. So I have noticed that also. But I do love it. I love it. I love using it for my business and with some of my clients as well. Like I said, it just helps you in those moments where you're kind of stumped. All right. And also, I want to kind of just get maybe a few tips that you can share before we close out about just some things that you're kind of seeing in the brand strategy space and also maybe PR and marketing, some things that we haven't touched on. What are some things that you can share in that regard?
I would say in terms of like actual changes in regards to PR, one of the changes which sort of happened over the last few years is the transition to being able to leverage it with social media. So combining the two different approaches. When you get featured, you want to actually share that content across social media, leverage on your website, send it out to your existing email list, leverage in ads. People have used that very effectively. So that's one of the changes in the last few years. Also, there's been sort of a focus on AI in terms of being able to use it for like pitching and being able to link back to your, I would say in PR, there's been a real focus in terms of data-driven insights. So if you can have a specific data which study which you've done and you can link back to your blog, that could be pretty effective. So those are the main changes which I'm seeing in PR. But PR is it's one of those fields which isn't changing a lot. Right now, it's just digital, and then there's the the in-person type of stuff with like speaking engagements, magazines, etc.
Oh, awesome. And since you touched on speaking engagements, I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with just like, getting your content out to certain reporters and kind of getting your content seen. What are some ways, like if you wanted to kind of get into the speaking engagement space, how could someone go about doing that?
It's pretty simple. First of all, you want to figure out what types of speaking engagements you want to be on. There's a lot of different types. There's industry specific types, and then there's also motivational speeches. You want to figure out first of all what type are you even looking for. After that, then you want to reach out to the right people. So the key people with speaking engagements would be the event managers. You want to reach out to them, potentially one of the like marketing directors. You want to get in touch with like an account manager, those different types of people. Reach out to them over LinkedIn, email, etc. It's definitely possible to land a speaking engagement. There's also other sides, I would say, of in-person PR, which some people might consider kind of strange. For example, there's like fake rallies and stuff like that, where every single person in the rally is paid. And I know the different companies which, do these types of things, they have hundreds of people who are either in support of something or rallying against that, and that can destroy businesses. For example, let's just say you have a competitor and that particular competitor did something in the past which is very unethical. What companies have done is they've had like 100 plus people protesting outside that guy's business, and that caused like basically news reporters to pick up on that, like, oh, all these people are protesting that, and as a result, that business ironically had to sell to the very business which did that tactic on them for like a fraction of the cost. And that's one interesting way which PR can be very powerful, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And how would you handle like negative crisis like that when it comes to just negative commentary or negative things happening?
Yeah, there's a number of different ways. That's actually 30% of our clients who are in negative crises, actually. And there's a number of negative crises. It could be like on Google. We had one of our clients, they were getting calls and they had people literally waiting outside in their parking lot screaming at them. So there's a couple different ways. First of all, it's always my opinion that you should always take no comment is the worst possible option. You should always make some sort of comment. Otherwise, people assume you're guilty or whatever you're being accused of. So you should always comment something. And the second thing is you want to try to get into news coverage. People push down some of that negative results with time. So that way that's not coming up forever. Otherwise, it will ultimately destroy your business.
Yeah, I mean, because we see it a lot just happening in the media space when something negative happens and like maybe a business or a person doesn't take immediate action when speaking up. You allow the media to really create a story for you instead of you creating that story yourself and kind of bringing in your truth about, what's happened.
Yes, and even just voicing out your opinion causes people to kind of second guess that. It was actually a common tactic which the Trump campaign leveraged, like in particular, they leveraged this tactic, which basically whenever there was something they did which people consider to be kind of controversial, what they would do is they reached out to hundreds of different news outlets to basically cloud the air in terms of what people actually thought was true. So they'd be pushing out exact opposite story to that exact story, and they keep pushing the counter narratives. And what would end up happening is people would be super confused, and they'd be like, they wouldn't know what to believe. And that's a common tactic which people do on the political ground, but also, businesses can do that the same exact thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good commentary on that. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Well, how can people reach you, your PR agency, and all the things that you're doing? How can we reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me, I would say, is on Instagram at the Aidan Sowa. Yeah, or just reaching out to us on like velvetvoicepr.com, filling out the contact form. Both ways work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aidan. This was really helpful, very useful information that I myself can take back and use in my own business. So I'm very sure that it's helpful to others as well. So I really appreciate you coming on today and discussing more topics around branding and PR strategy. So thank you so much.
Sure. I appreciate you having me on.